Since its foundation 5 years ago on a large estate on the northeast coast of Mauritius, facing the Roche Noire Lagoon, Azuri Ocean and Golf Village has metamorphosed into a vibrant community. The unique development, which unifies golf and ocean, is defining what it means to live simply and truly in a progressive, multicultural urban beachside destination. Mauritians and foreigners can acquire splendid contemporary residences built on prime property and access a range of amenities: a beach, a cafe, restaurants, a gourmet shop, a spa and fitness club, a tennis club, a nautical club, a Radisson Blu hotel, but also property and estate management services. Azuri's residents enjoy a safe neighborhood and a genuine sense of living together. Azuri's surrounding nature, mangroves, a lagoon, sugarcane fields, and Rivière du Rempart River, encapsulates the beauty of living in Mauritius. Today, Azuri is launching a new residential neighborhood at the heart of a spectacular golf course. Welcome to Rive Droite. Azuri's newest neighborhood comprises 3 distinct residential clusters. Each cluster has their own identity and vibe, but share tranquility and all the benefits that come with living by a golf course. Rive Droite is a 5-minute buggy or bicycle ride from the pre-existing village's main marketplace and beach. The signature par 3 9-hole course that can be played in 90 minutes adds immense value to our homeowners' properties. Golfers and non-golfers alike will appreciate the beauty and space that comes with a spectacular course. Rive Droites comprise 88 penthouses, villas and apartments, set near the river's elevation, affording views of the golf course and mountain range. The acquisition of a residence at Rive Droite comes with a transferable golf membership. Purchasing property at Azuri comes with full ownership of prime real estate, Mauritian residency, smart island living opportunities, a strong community, but also property management and rental and resale services. Whether you are considering a change of scene, a shift in your career, or simply an adventure, Mauritius is not a place you want to overlook. Bilingualism, booming industries, a less taxing tax system, double taxation agreements with 43 countries, a key geographic position in the Indian Ocean, and the diversity of its population are all factors that contribute to making Mauritius the economic nerve center of the Indian Ocean. If you are looking for the perfect place to call home, Azuri Ocean and Golf Village might just be the one. Find out more about us on azuri.mu.
Hello everyone and welcome to another webinar Wednesday from the DTOS News Desk in partnership with Azuri. My name is Mark Morel and I'm the Marketing Manager of the DTOS Group and I'll be your host this session. Before we get into our webinar, just a few notes regarding this session. Please send through your comments. We'll be hosting a curated Q&A session at the end. We love hearing from our audience, so please send through comments. You can give a like, you can give a smiley face, a thumbs up, whatever you'd like. Please note that the session is also being recorded. And make sure to keep an eye out on the chat box as we will be sharing some information, some take-home information on the discussion here today. And just one other technical aspect, if you have other tabs open in your internet browser, please close them now to ensure a smooth session. All right, so let's shed some light on the subject. The inclusion of Mauritius on the FATF, for those of you who don't know, that is the anti-money laundering list, which was released in Feb, as well as Mauritius on the EU list of high third risk party countries, has put Mauritius under the spotlight. To help bring some clarity around this topic are none other Then acting CEO of Blue Life Limited, the property developer behind Azuri Ocean and Golf Village, Mr. Hugues Lages. The managing partner from Mauritius Sotheby's International Realty, Mr. Timo Geldenhuys. And from our DTOS group, the head of business development, Mr. Didier Varnet. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Didier, to quickly bring up a conversation around the title of the webinar, which we just had in the green room earlier, perhaps you could provide some clarity from the start.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you for coming up with this hot and spicy and controversial topic. I think it's very important that we set the scene very clearly before we start engaging with our guest today. And I like to say it very clearly. Mauritius has been and will be a safe destination for investment. Mauritius, be it as an investment destination or as a jurisdiction, has always been safe. And it's because I think our institutions work well. We've got a vibrant legal system. We've got a Supreme Court which is respected and trusted. And I think over the last 50 years, we haven't seen dramas like land grabbing or expropriation or nationalization and things like that, and which makes the jurisdiction a safe and sound one. So my personal view is that even when our name appears on that list next month, the jurisdiction and the destination of Mauritius will remain a safe one. And I think possibly it might be a bit more complex for KYC and due diligence processes, but other than that, the place will be a good place to do business and to invest in.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Didier. Hugues, could we start with you perhaps giving us an overview of why Mauritius has experienced success over the last couple of years as a preferred investment destination with a focus around South Africa and the context of real estate investment?
Yeah. Thank you, Mark, and thank you for having me on this panel today. Mauritius has always been close to South Africa from a geographical point of view, and we consider also South Africa as one of the feeder markets for our tourism industry.
Yeah.
On the real estate point of view, when 12 years ago the Mauritian government brought on the market the scheme for foreigners to acquire a property and obtain residence permit, Mauritius became the best choice for South African. Again, we had the proximity, we had the language, we had the ease of doing business, the tax system, the security of life, and I would say the most of the island is the lifestyle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we can assume that Mauritius became the perfect plan B for South African. From there, if we look at the profile of the South African, we have three types of buyers today. The profile number one, it's the person who has decided to move on from South Africa and come to Mauritius and live there. Decision to sell all his assets there.
Yeah, sure.
The profile number two is a buyer who is not yet ready to move. He's not taking this decision yet. So it's more a medium-term decision. And he could already live in Mauritius 50% of the time and 50% in South Africa. And the third one, the profile number three, as we used to call it, the pure investor, is looking to place his money abroad and obviously looking for a yield on his investment via a rental management program and ideally a capital appreciation when it exits. And for this free profile, Azuri has had attractivity being by the sea and delivering against their needs.
Hugues, on that note, I think DJ and myself, we've noticed that there's perhaps even a fourth category of buyers, what we're calling the all-rounders, guys that wants the 360-degree opportunity to settle down in Mauritius. Have you perhaps noticed a similar profile?
Yeah, absolutely. We have noticed a similar new profile over the last 2 years. They are younger, generally.
So like me.
like me.
Okay, great.
Like us. They are between 30 to 40 years old. They have young children, usually, and they are still very active professionally. For us, their key priority is safety and happiness for their family.
Sure.
And it's with this profile in mind that we have developed Azuri. Our motto is happiness inspired the lifestyle we have created.
Okay.
Talking a bit about Azuri, it's a village today with approximately more than 300 residents, where approximately 600 family living fully during all the year there. And we have full-fledged of services and facilities at Azuri. Like restaurant, we have coffee, we have food shop. As we are on the northeast of the island, sitting on the beautiful lagoon of Roche Noire, so we have boat parkings, tennis facilities, archeries, and even a Montessori play school within the village. So I think we really tick all the boxes, which make us a place to live, truly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Hugues. If you've just joined us in this webinar, please keep an eye on the chat box. We will be sharing with you some really good information with regards to this webinar, some take-home information, and obviously there's a Q&A session at the end, so send through your questions and we'll be curating those questions at the end. Timo, you're an expat from South Africa, and you've had a great innings in Mauritius. Could you tell us a bit about why you moved to Mauritius, what has changed, and perhaps what could affect anyone moving to Mauritius once our borders open?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And first of all, thank you for having me on this panel today, and privileged to be here with my esteemed panelists. When you say I've had a good innings, I'd like to think my innings is still ongoing. It's not over. So let's just put that to bed. I plan to be here for some time yet. I think for me and my family, we've been here for going on 15 years now. Wow. We arrived as a young South African family, not looking at Mauritius as a second option, but looking at it purely from a work perspective. I came over in 2005, setting up the sales and marketing side of one of the first property developments to happen in Mauritius. My wife and I were in our early 30s. And yeah, it's just amazing how Mauritius has evolved since then. I was having a chat with someone yesterday, with a client yesterday, and I was saying that, if you look at the last 14 years and with specific reference to Africa, and you say, which African country has improved over the last 14 years? Yeah. They're not a lot, and I can tell you from first-hand experience, Mauritius has, across all spheres. When we got here, just like the analogy I always use is when we went shopping. You used to go to the shop and you didn't plan ahead because you went, you saw what was in the shops, and then you bought dinner for that night. And it was quite rudimentary almost, and I mean that's changed drastically. From a goods and services perspective, you have amazing quality of goods and access to goods. From an education perspective, it was difficult to find good quality private education 15 years ago. It existed, but today there are a number of international schools, both in the north and the west of the island, and even in the middle of the island. So that's improved drastically. From a healthcare perspective, it's just amazing how that's changed. Yeah. There are private clinics on the island now, and those are coming up more and more, which makes it more accessible for people who have health challenges, for example. So across the board, it's just been an amazing transformation that the island has gone through. Government has been exceptionally proactive in welcoming people, and specifically South Africans, to the island. I do want to add, it's not a mini South Africa. This is Mauritius. Yeah. And I think that's often a misconception that South Africans have. They come here and expect to create a mini South Africa, and it's not that. What's nice is that Mauritians welcome South Africans, welcome expats from across the world, but they have such a distinct culture and quality of life of their own that you don't need to create a little South Africa here. What they have here is more than enough, and yeah, it's a privilege for us to be living here, to be completely honest.
Timo, I think you know, testimony is everything, and experience is everything, and so thanks so much for that insight. To bring up a point you made earlier, could you highlight what are the benefits for South Africans who are seeking to invest in property in Mauritius?
Yeah, so from a property perspective, as I touched on, I came over 15 years ago on a specific development. I've been in Mauritius since the inception of the property market in South Africa. So I've really seen a massive evolution there. I recently purchased Mauritius Sotheby's International Realty with my partner. So, you know, we have full faith in this market, and I just wanted to get that out there. But yeah, you know, from a benefits, from an investment point of view, there's so many. You know, from a market itself perspective, it's not a speculative market. It is a long to medium term investment. It really has seen solid capital appreciation over the last 15 years. Don't come here and think you're going to double your money in a year. It's not that kind of a market. But if you want it in a safe environment, Mauritius is a good place. Secondly, from a currency hedge perspective, especially vis-a-vis the rand, it's been phenomenal. You know, 15 years ago, when we got here, the rand was at around 580. We all know where the rand is right now. You know, so even with the asset maintaining parity and holding its own value, from a rand perspective, we've seen massive growth. And then you add on the capital appreciation on average, which has been, depending on where you've invested, between 3 and 5%. You know, it's a really, really solid investment. And yeah, so from that perspective, you touched on a few things. You know, you're not just from an investment perspective, yes, you're investing into a property, but you're investing into a lifestyle here. You know, and the lifestyle includes things like safety. You know, you can't put a price on safety. And I've said I didn't leave South Africa for any specific reasons, and I'll never run my country down because South Africa is still my country. But the peace of mind you have living here and the freedom you have here is unbelievable. You know, as a South African, and that's why we're having so many inquiries at the moment. You know, there are so many people looking and exploring Mauritius as an option.
That's fantastic. Well, that's property and some personal testimony there, but let's move across to business. Didier, the business attractivity has also been one of the reasons why Mauritius has had so much traction over the last decade. Most importantly, Mauritius has been a gateway for companies looking to trade into Africa. What are some of the advantages of investing through Mauritius for companies based in South Africa?
Yes, Mark. Well, the ecosystem that Mauritius has to offer is both tax-friendly and investor-friendly. Tax-friendly, from a tax perspective, I would say that the wide network of tax treaties does attract investors to use Mauritius for their cross-border investment into Africa. On top of that, our local tax architecture is quite simple, straightforward, and this gives clarity to investors when it comes to the return on investment of their projects in Africa. As far as investor-friendly aspect is concerned, you know very well that we rank quite high in the ease of doing business of the World Bank. So that's another added advantage. Also, in terms of products and services, the jurisdiction offers a wide array of legal products. Legal products and services. I'm referring here to the GBCs, to the ACs, to the PCCs and trusts that we have, and that suit the needs of the investors.
Just to jump in there, just for our audience watching, could you just in one sentence explain what GBC is?
Okay. First, a GBC stands for Global Business Company, and an AC stands for an authorized company. A GBC is a legal vehicle which is tax resident in Mauritius, and as such allows the company to benefit from tax treaties. Okay, whereas an authorized company is not tax resident in Mauritius and cannot benefit from tax treaties.
Great.
And each product suits the needs of a different kind of category of investor.
Sure. Thank you.
Last but not least, Mauritius is only 4 hours flight away from Johannesburg.
Yeah.
from Nairobi. And that's an important element in positioning the island as a hub. So I think it makes sense for South African companies to use Mauritius for their investment plans through Mauritius as a gateway and also to trade with the continent.
That's very good. Very good. Didier, we mentioned something earlier similar to Hugues with relation to the client profile looking into Mauritius. Could you elaborate as to how management companies have pivoted to accommodate the new attraction with Mauritius?
Definitely. We've seen, Mark, increased sophistication of the needs of our clients. They are now expecting to be offered not only a broad range of products, but also they are expecting to be advised on some ethical and or on some topical issues. First, we've seen that with the maturity of the Mauritius IFC, our clients are arbitraging now with other IFCs. They're comparing Mauritius with BVI, with Singapore, with Hong Kong, even with Luxembourg, to see whether the Mauritius jurisdiction has something specific to offer compared to those other IFCs. Secondly, we've seen our clients asking advice and assistance on issues like ESG issues, environmental, social, governance issues. It's very important for them now. Other things like impact investing, crowdfunding, sustainable practices. These come up quite often now with our investors. Other things like cryptos, AI, blockchains, all these are subjects that now management companies have to be fully up to speed with. And because they benchmark these issues more and more. So all these changes are forcing MCs to adapt to new clients' expectations. And I have no doubt that the business model is going to change big time. And in the next 5 years, the landscape is going to be very different. And I'm very pleased and proud to say that the DTOS group has anticipated a lot of these changes, and the board and the CEO are gearing the company and the group to be able to meet these expectations for our clients.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Didier. Let's go back to Hugues. Azuri has caught the attention of investors looking at property as a way to secure their finances and to acquire the big one, permanent residency in Mauritius. What have been the key criteria that have made Azuri attractive or stand out in the property market?
Yes, as I've mentioned, what has made Azuri stand apart is its lifestyle. We even have created a job for someone, a lifestyle manager, and she organizes events, she organizes market days, like the Christmas days. She put together foreigners together, dinner. She really makes the life happening at Azuri. So we very quickly realized that to be attractive, we needed this lifestyle in the village, and we need the place to really live truly.
So I mean, Timo will share this with me, and that is South Africa is largely made up of gated communities. I mean, there's a lot of that in Mauritius, in South Africa. And so you guys have definitely sort of moved towards accommodating South Africa, not only building bricks and mortar, but actually building community. And I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I think we Azuri really have hit the nail on the head as they've managed to achieve that. You know, you point out as South Africans, we like to get together socially, we like to have a braai, we like to watch the rugby and the cricket and whatever else is on TV, even bowling if it has to be that. But the bottom line is that it's all about lifestyle, and because of where Azuri is located, because of the sort of the mix that they've got in their development, they've managed to get that right. And yeah, you know, I can't speak highly enough of a place like Azuri. You know, my mates who live there and people I know live there are so exceptionally happy there, and they've managed to take the best elements of Mauritius and combine it with the expectations of what an expat would be looking for.
I mean, in terms of the, I mean, I totally agree. But in terms of the sort of portfolio of properties, I mean, what does it look like from your side?
Yeah, we really want a plug-and-play solution for a smooth transition when you take the decision to move out from your country to Mauritius. So that being said, our property portfolio at the moment is catering for 2-bed apartments, for example, on the golf course, which can be considered as an investment product. We have a 3 and 4 beds villas, again on the golf course. And recently, we had what we call the service land for sale. These specific service land plot are able the buyer to design and build his own villa.
So you can just come and buy the land and build your own villa.
Exactly.
Your own design.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Obviously, around the property acquisition, you can see some stress, and we want a stress-free ownership. So we propose a property management services, which goes to the maintenance of your pool, your garden, a bit like a concierge service, basically, in the village, within the village.
Thanks, Hugh. But I want to get sort of more specifically into the property investment perspective at this one. We've seen some changes in the Finance Act that have changed the product offering in the market. A big one is the minimum investment required for a non-citizen from moving from $500,000 down to $375 or $375,000. Have these changes affected your offering at Azuri?
Yes, the Finance Act has changed quite a few things, making Mauritius even more attractive to foreign investor and professional, obviously. As you mentioned, the starting price used to be 500 USD to acquire a property and get your residency. With this new Finance Act is now down to 375 USD. But amongst these new Finance Act, I wanted to put the precise three components of him, which I found interesting. The first one is the spouse of an occupational permit holder can now invest and work in Mauritius. The occupational permit holder will be allowed to bring parents and dependents to live in Mauritius also. And the last one, the occupational and residence permit holder will be eligible to a permanent resident permit valid for 20 years. Wow. So for me, it's really the right time to invest in Mauritius at Azuri.
At Azuri. All right. Timo. Oh, you just want to...
And quickly, with regard to Azuri, we are currently working on a range of new products that soon will be brought onto the market for sales, where the price range will start as 300,000 USD upwards. Okay. The idea is to meet the demands around these new regulations.
Okay, all right. So that's how you guys have pivoted. You're creating a new product line around that, but within the context of Azuri.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you so much, Hugues. Timo, my arrival on the island was something of a roller coaster because I came just prior to the COVID lockdown, and perhaps some crazy decisions on my part. But what I found with regards to Mauritius is that knowledge is everything. And so what are some of the differences between buying a house in South Africa versus buying a house in Mauritius? And could you perhaps elaborate a little bit on buying off-plan? And a big one is, what are the sureties that are in place to assist investors?
I'll try and remember all of that.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Mark.
All right.
Yeah, so you know, at the end of the day, there's similarities, but there are a number of differences, as you point out. You know, I think the biggest thing is that as foreigners, you can't just come into Mauritius and buy any property. So, you know, if you rent a house in the middle of Grand Bay or Tamarin or Black River, you can't necessarily buy that house. Well, you can't buy that house. You have to buy within an approved scheme. So government has, over the last, since the inception of the IRS, which was the first scheme allowed for foreigners to buy, they've systematically relaxed and made it easier for foreigners to buy property here. So you now have the IRS, which is the Integrated Resort Scheme. You have the RES, which is the Real Estate Scheme. You have the PDS, which is the Property Development Scheme. They love the acronyms. It's awesome. You have the Smart City. They've, you know, and they've various reasons for doing all of this. You know, it's to make property ownership more inclusive. It's to give more Mauritians who own land the chance to develop. It's all of those things. So we won't go into that. But so that's number one. You have to buy into an approved scheme. The big thing is all ownership here is freehold. You do have leasehold land on the beach all the way around Mauritius, but that can only be owned by Mauritians. So from a foreign ownership perspective, it's irrelevant. And you have some developments that are beachfront, but the actual property, so I think it's 87 meters from the high water mark is where your leasehold land stops. So for example, if you have a freehold development, a development on the sea, your leasehold land will be common areas, there'll be a beach club, etc. But the actual property that you own will be set back from the beach. Okay. So that's another big one, and a great comfort is that it is freehold, unlike many African countries that have leasehold. And the fact that you combine that with a government that's pretty stable, a democracy that's stable, you know your ownership is rock solid. Our law is based on French law, our property law, so which is a huge comfort. The French law is very protective of the buyer. And so, for example, when you're buying off-plan, the developer has to put in place a GFA, which is a French word, you can say the word?
Garantie financière d'achèvement.
That's what I said. And effectively what it is the developer puts in place a guarantee that the development, when you sign your deed of sale, that development will go ahead. So it's backed by a bank, it's underwritten by a bank, and there's no chance of you losing your money. Yes, if a developer goes bankrupt, it might delay the process somewhat, but more importantly, from a legal perspective here, you sign a reservation contract, you put money into a notary's account generally, and that money stays in the notary's account until that development gets the green light through the GFA. And if the development doesn't go ahead, yes, you may have invested into a development that that hasn't got off the ground. There are very few where that has happened, but it has happened. But at least your deposit is safe. You don't lose money here. I personally don't know of any clients who have lost money in developments here. Wow. So it's a big plus. And then lastly, and I always say this to people, and I'll again, working with an agency like Mauritius Sotheby's International Realty, working with a developer like Azuri that's part of a much bigger group. I always say to clients, do your homework. Make sure from a South African perspective, you are coming into a jurisdiction that is foreign. They speak a different language sometimes, not all of the time. The official language is English here, so that's a good thing. But some of the contracts are in French, for example. So make sure that you engage with professionals. And so I think sort of on touch points, those are sort of the main things to look out for from a South African perspective, investing in property here.
Thank you, Timo. Thank you very much. Didier, what measures have the relevant governing entities taken to ensure that we are indeed a secure investment destination, and how do management companies play a vital role in this?
Yeah, Mark, I think there's a real firm commitment by the authorities to make sure that the institutions hold their functions freely, fairly, professionally, and according to their mandates. I think this is very important because the checks and balances that our enabling laws have, these need to be respected so that our jurisdiction remain a safe and sound one. The governing entities that I'm thinking of are mostly the FSC and the Bank of Mauritius. They are taking, in my mind, they are taking every step to make sure that the jurisdiction and the investment destination is sound and safe, to make sure that the interest of every stakeholder is preserved. Now, MCs have a pivotal role in that because they have a clear mandate to look after the interests of their clients, and deal with the affairs of their clients in all confidentiality. but also they have the obligation to make sure that they themselves and their clients are in compliance with the rules and regulations. So I would say that our system, our jurisdiction has some inbuilt checks and balances, which make sure that the jurisdiction and the destination is safe.
Great, thank you, Didier. So this is the part where we get to the curated Q&A session. That's from our audience sending through the questions in the chat box. So the first question is, this is for Hugues.
Okay.
All right. So let me just read it. I would like to diversify my portfolio by investing in a property. What type of returns can I expect if I rent my property?
Good question.
Yeah, good one.
It's quite simple. We have done through the past experience at Azuri for the last, let's say, 5 years. We have a track record, basically, of our rental management program. And depends on the way you structure your acquisition also. And you can optimize this acquisition via your services, for example. But basically, we can achieve a 3% yield year on year, on your property, without taking into consideration the capital appreciation, which we consider to be around 4 to 5% per year.
Wow. Okay.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
Something I wanted to mention earlier, I think from a rental perspective, with all the amendments that government has just made, and you touched on a few of them earlier, but there's a range of permits that government has implemented, which makes it easier for expats to come here, and obviously we're speaking predominantly to the South African market. Permits have been extended, entry thresholds are lower, and I'm sure you guys have seen the same thing, but certainly over the last 6 to 8 weeks, we've seen a massive increase in terms of inquiries coming in. I'm dealing with a lot of people, and I know a lot of my colleagues in the marketplace are, and we genuinely believe that in the next 6 to 12 months, if the skies open, we're going to see you are going to see an influx of people here, and so from a rental perspective. There's going to be a demand for rentals, because not everyone who comes to Mauritius, let's face it, not everyone who comes here can afford to buy a property. No. That's just the way it is. But a lot of people, a lot of my mates, including me when I arrived here, I certainly couldn't afford to buy a property here. But so I've been renting, and that's going to continue. At the moment, yes, we're still in COVID, and there's a slight oversupply in the market, but. Seriously, in the next time ahead, we do see that there's going to be a demand for rental property, and it's not a you can't compare the yield here to a place like the UK. We're never going to meet those types of yields, but it's a solid return. It's dependable. Generally your long-term yield will be lower than your short-term yield. So there's less wear and tear on the property with a long-term tenant than short-term tenants. So you weigh all of those things up. It's a solid place to own a rental property.
Cool, great, thank you. Question number 2, Timo, you may as well keep the mic. I'm looking to move from South Africa. How should I go about doing this? That's quite a broad question.
Well, at this stage, you've got to swim, I think.
You've got to swim, yeah. Yeah, you've got to wait for the airports to open,
like I always say to people, this is, as I've just alluded to, we are getting a massive amount of inquiries out of South Africa for obvious reasons, and I'm not going to go into that. But I would say, and it's a very obvious thing, is start at the beginning. You can't just move to a country without knowing anything about the country. So make sure that you're coming here for the right reasons. Make sure you do your research. Make sure you have the means. Engage with professionals, as I mentioned. Speak to management companies like DTOS. Make sure that you ask all the right questions. It's not easy to come over here and just find a job. I strongly advise you not to just pack up, fly over here, and hope you're going to get a job. Don't do that. You know, make sure that you engage with people in your industry, and just ask a lot of questions. You know, even from a moving over perspective, and I sell real estate. These guys develop real estate. Sometimes buying straight off, or often buying straight off the bat, is not the right thing to do. Come over here, experience the island first. Make sure that it's a place that you want to live. Make sure that your family is happy here. Having been here for such a long time, the biggest reason people have left, and specifically South Africans.
You mean left Mauritius?
Left Mauritius,
Right.
who've come over here, who've left, is because one of the family members is not happy. They came over here under duress, so the husband was keen to come, the wife was like, but where's I'm going to get my willy foods, you know, and although those things have improved, it's you know, there's still things that aren't South Africa, as I mentioned earlier. And make sure you and your spouse, or you and your kids, or you and whoever are all on the same page. So I know it's a pretty superficial answer, but it's really appropriate, because otherwise you're going to spend a hell of a lot of money coming over here, setting up yourself over here, and you're going to go back with your tail between your legs, and you're not going to leave Mauritius with a great impression, and we don't want that.
Yeah, I found that for me, a holiday in Mauritius is not living in Mauritius. So don't confuse the two. No. And I think that could be said for South Africa. Holiday in South Africa is not the same as living in South Africa.
And that's why I say, like, often for people who are looking to come and make a life here, who need to work here, come and experience it first.
Yeah.
So rent a place in the north for a month. Rent a place in the west for a month. Rent a place on the east coast. You know, really experience the island, get to know the people, and make sure that it's a place where you want to live.
Yeah.
You know, don't come here with blinkers on, because you're going to be disappointed.
People don't realize that Mauritius is smaller than Johannesburg. So it's a small place at the end of the day.
Yeah,
so as you said, but for South Africans who are used to big places and vast areas of land, it's quite difficult to adjust. So I would agree with you.
Yeah.
They have to come and see for themselves what the island looks like. No, it's a challenge.
Well, it's easier to keep the mic. A question for you. What's the best investment option if I want to relocate my company in Mauritius and purchase a property for professional and residential purpose? So what is the best investment option if I want to relocate my company?
I have to charge for that, so I can't answer.
You have to charge, right.
No, I think it's a question of risk appetite, because I think we've got all the products to suit the needs of a lot of investors. Obviously, you can invest in real estate for a level of risk. There are different classes of assets that you can lay your hands on through Mauritius. But I think it's mostly your investment objective, your horizon. When do you want your money back? The appetite that you're willing to take for the risks. So there's a lot of factors to be taken care of before we can answer that. But I'm quite happy to say that we have a wide offering of opportunities for that kind of clients. So they can contact us, and we'll guide them through to the right people.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I think that was quite a broad question. I think it would have been great if the person asked the question perhaps said, you know, they have a barber shop or whatever. Whatever the case is, they're moving a specific type of business. But as you heard, get a hold of Didier and we'll get into it. Timo, does Mauritius offer a golden passport like other countries?
No.
Next question. No, I'm just kidding.
No, so Mauritius was actually one of the first countries that offered permanent residency with property purchase. So they were right at the forefront of that whole movement. You know, Mauritius, for whatever reason, you know, it's a small place, and they treat their citizenship very, it's a very valuable asset that they have, and so they've chosen to stick with the permanent residency option. And I think the way they've combated it is by really relaxing the ways of being able to get in. So for all intents and purposes, bar actually having a passport, you can live here exactly as a citizen would. Even to the point where, as a Commonwealth citizen, you're allowed to vote, which I recently found out. I don't know if you knew that. A guy came knocking on my door and said, You on the voters roll, do you want to? And I was like, but I'm not a citizen. He said, no, you're part of you're a Commonwealth citizen, so you can vote. So it's amazing. So from a golden visa perspective, golden passport perspective, no, we don't. We don't, unfortunately, compete with the likes of Portugal and Spain and Malta and Cyprus, all of those. But as was mentioned earlier, we have a lot of other pros, which I think negate what those places offer: proximity, language. Familiarity, it's all of those things, and it's just an awesome place to live, I don't know if I want to go and stay on a rock, it's like in the middle of Europe where I can't speak the language. People are like-minded, so no. I'm spicing it up, playing against the golden visa, but our permanent residency, I feel, is worth almost, if not more than a golden visa in another country.
Great. I have one more question that I want to ask, that has been asked, that has been curated. The question is, I have an occupation permit as an investor. By the changes with the Finance Act in 2020, I understand my spouse, who is currently my dependent, can also work in Mauritius without any other occupation permit. Can you please confirm if the understanding is correct, and would his wife need to inform the EDB that she'll be working in Mauritius by starting a business?
The answer to the question is yes.
So get a hold of the EDB.
No, this I can't say, but I'm not sure whether the rules have been finalized at the EDB level.
Right.
We could check that, but they have already. But what's the exact process? I don't know. I'll be very honest, but we can look and get back to the person asking that question. Great. But definitely, that person can become a resident and
great.
work.
So they can become a resident. That's fantastic.
And work. Yeah.
Have we still got time, production, just for just one fun question I'd like to ask each one. So to each of you, that's the end of our Q&A session, but I've got a question I'd like to ask. What is your favorite go-to on the island, Didier?
Gris-Gris.
Gris-Gris.
Yeah.
What is that?
It's a place in the south.
Is it the beach?
It's a beach.
Great.
Yeah.
Probably any golf course. Or anywhere where I can ride my mountain bike.
Nice.
Or anywhere where I can buy a piece of meat. One of those three.
Okay, one of those three. Okay, so those are your three favorites.
Many, that's the problem. But I will choose one, which is probably Le Morne.
Le Morne.
Yes, for kite surfing specifically, or diving.
Yeah, I'd have to say Le Morne was on my top three list. So that's it. Well, guys, it's time for us to bring this to a close. I think we've touched on some very important points and provided some clarity around investing in Mauritius and life on the island. If you're watching this and you'd like to know more about investing in Mauritius or living in Mauritius, please email Didier at dtos@dtos-mu.com. It will come up in the chat section. Thank you again to our panelists for your valuable insights. I'm sure we can all agree that Mauritius is only moving forward and ripe for investment. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Our handles at DTOS Group on Instagram, Facebook, as well as LinkedIn, and to keep up to date with our communication. But that's a wrap on Webinar Wednesdays. I'm Mark Morell, and we'll see you again soon.